And right now we are on the multi-cloud AI and IoT panel discussion. Well, cloud of tomorrow, emerging technologies within the cloud computing ecosystem and how the cloud is evolving from just being a place for setting up simple web apps and infrastructure to a destination to enable enterprise grade and business critical scenarios, including hybrid cloud, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and IoT. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for our topic, Cloud of Tomorrow, Influence of Emerging Technologies, we're looking at covering how has cloud computing evolved in recent years and what are the trends shaping the cloud of tomorrow? What are the challenges in making cloud an effective platform for technologies such as AI and IoT? What do enterprises need to prepare for the next gen cloud adoption? Also, what relevant business outcomes or performance parameters should customers expect when adopting the cloud for tomorrow? What is the value propositions of Kubernetes and cloud native technologies? What is the blueprint for successful application modernization? And what are the key models for the cloud of future, given expectations of the scalability in the IT infrastructure and next-gen computing? Well, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists, we've got Sean Lam, the head data science Sing Health, who's joined us. Well, Sean, with 20 years of experience, Dr. Sian is currently overseeing a team of data scientists in the development data science-related infrastructure, technologies, policies, and processes for the enhancement of patient care and outcomes. Also, we're going to be joined by Izzat Aziz, the AVP Emerging Technology and Cybersecurity Group, Technology Risk Management, CIMB. Also, we're going to be joined by Saiful Bakhtiar Osman, the head of ICT Malaysian Aviation Commission. Well, Mr. Saiful is being ranked as one of the top 50 CIOs for ASEAN in 2019 by the International Data Group, wherein he brings with him a solid experience of 20 years in diverse industries such as fund management, oil and gas, financial institution, and regulatory body. This entire conversation and the panel discussion is going to be moderated by Sachin Tong, the Director, Data and Privacy Operations, Standard Chartered Bank. Well, somebody who's seasoned in program and project management in banking and consulting industry, Sachin is a tech leader with 17 plus years in delivering data and business intelligence solutions and products by engaging agile and waterfall methodologies. So thank you so much to our panel for joining us today. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Saiful. Thank you, Sean. And thank you, Izzat, for joining us. I'd leave it now to the moderator, Sachin, to take it forward. Also, if I may request our audience who's viewing us live, if you have any questions for our audience, for our panelists, you can just type it in the Q&A tab and we'll pass it on to the moderator at the end of the session, if time allows. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, Bhavna, for that wonderful setting up the context and putting so much pressure on my shoulders. So first of all, I would like to welcome all the panelists, amazing, diverse panelists with great experience. And I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous of hosting this because such a great panelist we have. So before we deep dive into the real stuff and the real questions, right? So pandemic area, and it is all about COVID-19. Now vaccine will be out soon. Hopefully, we'll be able to jump on the plane again. I think COVID-19 is the biggest disruptor, and it has actually speed up a lot of innovation. And in the area of cloud also, we have seen a lot of innovation is going on in terms of machine learning, AI, data storage, data governance, and analytics, and other things. So I would like to take the view from all the panelists. Why there is, what are the key challenges purely from a perspective of moving towards cloud, and if we can have some understanding about what kind of data privacy and challenges the organizations are facing when they are making up a strategy of cloud. So maybe we can start with Sean first.
Yeah, thanks, Sachin, for being a moderator for this, and I do agree that I think we have heard the phrase that the transformation happens not because of CTOs or whoever. It is really now we are seeing a lot of new innovation transformation because of COVID. I think we are kind of like being forced to consider the model that is that enables remote work to a certain extent is beyond our control. And with this, right, I do see that there is an acceleration of the pace to look at some of these cloud technologies that is one of the key enabler that can allow organizations to function remotely, doesn't have to congregate together in a building or organization to actually do the work that they are doing. But that said, right, I'm from healthcare and I'm from public healthcare, Singapore. So to a certain extent, we are much more cautious, even not looking at public healthcare. Even if you look at the healthcare space, right, I would say that from my experience and my understanding of the whole landscape, we are kind of not as aggressive as some of the other industries, in particular because of what you mentioned, the privacy of data, confidentiality, the need to be good custodians, and being on the cloud raises a whole different ball game in terms of data security and privacy. Um, and nobody actually can say. And I would be the first to really just mention the fact that even if you consider an on-premise kind of deployment with the traditional on-premise kind of cloud versus a public cloud, what is the security differential? I think most of us from Singapore, we are aware that there is a government-approved cloud, commercial cloud, that includes Amazon, that includes Google, as well as Microsoft, and I've heard about Oracle as well. So to a certain extent, I think the pandemic has really pushed us to really rethink, because a lot of things cannot be done if we do not have the compute and the ability to work from remotely through a more shared kind of platform. And coming back to security, right? We actually have looked at the setup of the commercial clouds, but they are indeed, I would say, they are not worse off than an on-premise solution. But the situation is not really whether we are going to cloud. Singapore had always had this, I mean, since about a year or two ago, there is this cloud first policy for government. It is about the trust and how we can actually facilitate that transformation. Definitely not bring the entire setup. It's likely to be a hybrid kind of environment, but how to actually orchestrate that transformation. I think those are the challenges that we have to address. Yeah.
I think very well said. So maybe I'll bring Sefu into this discussion, followed by Izzat.
Thanks, Sachin. I agree with what the Sean just mentioned just now. But for me, because it is more to the risk appetite that is willing to be absorbed by the company. As you can see, because of the pandemic, the way that we do traditionally is no longer work. So we need to catch up, keep pace with the new technology so that we can catch up and also have the competitive edge in the business. For instance, if before this, like if you have an apparel shop, sports apparel shop, so you will normally we will open more warehouse to house more outlets, to open more outlets. But in this case, in the time of pandemic, your consumers is unable to reach your outlets. So the way that we do business before is no longer applicable. We need to go online. We need to go to make sure that our products is able to reach our intended customers. So in this case, what I mean by risk appetite is that there's a lot of cloud options to choose from infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So if you evaluate all of these options closely, you will find out that if you go for like software as a service is a given thing. It's a 80% of the security will be handled by the cloud provider, because they come up with off the shelf of the share product that maybe we can customize a bit to meet our needs. But for platform as a service, is as good as our physical data center. Then we move up to cloud. It's still our own responsibility to make sure that everything is secure, the connection, the Africa we do the patching everything to make sure that our infrastructure will not exposed to any vulnerabilities. So and again, like we have, I think for cloud providers, one of the issue is not entirely on security, because security we do have cloud providers with the Department of Defense, US Department of Defense Impact Level 4 certified. That means it's the only civilian cloud that will able to be used by the military. That's how secure. So in this case, like more for Malaysia case, I think Izzat will agree, it's more to data sovereignty. Data sovereignty, the where your data resides. Then I don't think it should be a problem, because most of the big cloud providers, their regional cloud is resides in Singapore. But in Malaysia, we do have to take close attention about this data sovereignty. Maybe Izzat can explain more.
Okay, thank you so much, Saiful, for your input. So, Aziz, over to you.
Thanks, Sachin. I can't agree more with Sean and Saiful. COVID-19 has accelerated cloud adoption and challenged the traditional brick and mortar kind of digital transformation strategy. If you talk about 2 years ago, organizations struggled to understand the concept around cloud adoption, especially when handling with sensitive information and confidential information, like what Saiful mentioned earlier. But the strategy is always at the far horizon and waiting for the war stories from other cloud adopters to come. So traditionally, I think organization crown jewels are always protected on an intranet-based on-premise firewall protected data center with defense in that concept in place, obviously, right? But now, during this pandemic, employees are expected to handle data via whether it's corporate issued endpoints, BYOD, or even COPE asset due to the working from home and aligning to the new normal. I think the real challenge is really to understand cloud subscription model, like what been articulated by the members just now. There is IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. They have their own uniqueness in terms of roles and responsibility between the cloud provider and the cloud subscriber. Fear of unknown is a common thread in human being, but through knowledge about cloud, right, we can overcome this fear together. So it's really to create some sort of like awareness and also to understand what cloud really is. And then through cloud computing, infrastructure sizing can be manipulated on demand based on real-time need. This is basically something that we can't achieve in our typical old type of architecture and also build up,
Yep.
And then cloud will also tremendously, obviously, reduce IT workload and network bandwidth, and it will provide mobile access to corporate data via internet. On top of that, I think company will able to enjoy IT resiliency, as cloud is the architect to cater redundancy, security, privacy, and high uptime. I think in short, it's just a matter of time for this great migration towards cloud utilization to happen. Believe me, I'm not trying to be corny or anything, but data will talk to you if you are willing to listen. Back to you, Sachin.
Yeah, I think very well said, Aziz. So I think one of the clear USPs of cloud is on-demand up and down size scale, right? At the same time, a lot of organizations are trying to improve the return on investments on their IT budgets and all those things, right? So I think cloud definitely gives that perspective. So I would like to pick up this topic of GDPR, because data privacy and security is one of the most important challenges for the organization. Maybe Sean, I would like to understand from you. You are coming from healthcare and you are dealing with a lot of sensitive and lot of patient information. And I'm sure data sensitivity is the core essence where you are working on. And right now in my current portfolio, I'm the global director for data privacy operations and advanced analytics for the Standard Chartered. And one of the key aspect is how we can actually secure our customer client data and be a gold standard with GDPR. So what do you think from your perspective, because healthcare is also having a lot of sensitive data?
I think GDPR is a very high standard that we aspire to. In Singapore, we have the Personal Data Protection Act, and beyond that, in the use of biomedical data for secondary purposes beyond critical care, there is the Human Biomedical Research Act. So there are a variety of this that works together in our ecosystem to ensure that the data are not misused beyond its purpose, its intended purposes, and that the privacy of the population, the patients under our care, they are all sufficiently protected to a certain level. Then there is the other side of the bridge, which if you don't leverage sufficiently well all these data assets, they are just assets that have not much value. So in order to leverage on them to create the value that can multiply out by having those data, we need to have a sensible, I would say a very sensible and realistic look at what exactly are we protecting. I mean, from the angle of saying that all healthcare data are sensitive, I think that is too blunt a designation. It comes down to ability to look at what are the really sensitive data, what are the really medical sensitive data, and what are the really what I can say, because national security related kind of data, and even if you look at different disease or medical conditions, right? The question is, how about operational data, and how does it differ from a whole registry of, say, HIV patients, HIV positive patients, and how does that differ from a registry of COVID-19 patients? So to a certain extent, I think to fully understand this data privacy and protection and be able to deal with it, I think it stems from a variety of angles, and we can actually swing both ways. We can swing to the very conservative extent, or we can swing to the over aggressive, say, we don't want to be left behind by the new technologies, we want to make use of them. And that also creates quite a bit of risk. So it's not a very easy questions to answer. And I would say that we have to take a pragmatic and realistic approach. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think, Aziz, from your perspective, how your organization is dealing with this data security and the data privacy and challenges, keeping the lens of cloud migration as well.
I think I would take in a very different view altogether. I'm looking into the banking side of things. So I think it is clear that cloud computing is the fundamental to the next wave of digital development. So banks have benefited by leveraging cloud for digital banking infrastructure, where bank will focus on online, present to virtually interact with our customers. Technology like what mentioned just now, because AI-powered intelligent personal assistant example are built on cloud. And through this adoption, this integration will be seamless. And then I think when it comes to, bank like us, we are supposed to support the local fintech community to explore their ideas. So with cloud, we can leverage on the cloud-based sandbox where the development of their MVPs will be containerized on cloud. And this will minimize the risk of the impacting of the core banking system. I think the robust performance with solid banking process will encourage this ecosystem to innovate multiple cutting-edge technology. For example, IoT-based wearable or even biometric-based payment system to prepare for the next generation bank product and services. The irony is really human is profoundly associated with the weakest link in any technology implementation. To make things worse, right? During this COVID-19 pandemic, we notice actually a spike in phishing, scamming, and fraud happening. So I hope with cloud adoption, bank can take this advantage of high computing power to enable artificial intelligence and machine learning to run algorithm and build models to help our customer from this modus operandi. And then I think at the end of the day, we need to revamp our approach to embrace this emerging technology at cloud through thorough understanding of its advantage and disadvantage, because definitely like what Sean mentioned, there's a policy to govern, there is definitely a standard to uphold, but at the end of the day we need to build a future proof pipeline to embrace future innovation. So I think it's now or never. So this is just basically kickstarters to basically comply with certain standards, certain regulation requirement, but at the end of the day to mature this what do you call it, this cloud as a whole.
Thank you, Aziz. So, Sefu, I want to understand from you that how the enterprises should actually prepare for a next generation cloud. As Aziz mentioned about next generation of digital transformation, Sean has also mentioned about it, and we have already accepted it that cloud is needs to evolve further, and we have to leverage it. So there are enterprises which are still working on the strategy of cloud adoption, and especially next generation. So what is your suggestion to the enterprise that how can they prepare themselves?
Okay, thanks, Sachin. Preparing for the next gen cloud. Actually, before we engage in the next gen cloud, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, we need every company have to strategize. They must have a good strategy on why they are adapting to cloud. Not necessarily because everyone else have gone to cloud, so our company must do or die. We must also go to cloud, because that is just following the trend. But what do you expect to gain from engaging the cloud adoption for your company? What is your risk appetite? Like the potential for cloud is, for me, is limitless. Like even in aviation industry, aviation industry now, we have the Internet of Things, IoT that leverages on the cloud. If I can share, like Virgin Atlantic, they have all these sensors, multiple sensors put up in every part of their 787 plane. So by having these IoT sensors, then all this data can churn up. So whenever the plane is having trouble in mid-air, so this data will be collected. The sensors will transfer the data to the ground, so that whenever the aeroplane land in the next airport, all the ground crew is already available to make sure to rectify the problem, to make sure the plane is safe to take off to the next destination. This is how important that the cloud adoption and the IoT. The IoT is the next generation of the next generation of cloud. So you imagine how we can explore this new gen of cloud to make fully of it in terms of safety, in terms of performance, in terms of increasing our productivity. Even nowadays we have Unicanal. For Unicanal is a library of OS. So it is no longer a question whether what OS are you using. Whenever you transfer or migrate all your data centers, all the servers is taken care of because we have this library of OS that uh, basically taking care of the OS, because Unicanal is the library of all OS to make sure that whatever the servers you put in is workable and is compatible. There's a lot that we can use in terms of this next gen of cloud. But again, before you engage all this, you have to know, you really know, you have to strategize what is the business objective, what is the ROI expected from the investment, because we do not want to overspend. All our adoption must be something that is right fit to our organization. There's no such thing as one size fits all. So this is really something that the organization must think thoroughly and get the management approval and also buy-in, so that whatever the investment that we embark in will not be an overkill or something that will turn out like a white elephant project. Back to you, Sachin.
Okay, thank you. Makes sense. So, Sean, next generation cloud in healthcare, what do you think?
I would say that healthcare is evolving too slow for my liking in terms of the adoption of cloud technologies. But I would say that we have to deal with this in a more, I guess, in a more measured way. Uh, Other than talking about data privacy and the sensitivity of healthcare related information, I think beyond that, there is also the issue of legacy systems. We started very fast, in particular, the cluster that I'm in. We were early adoption of enterprise-wide kind of clinical information systems, clinical management systems, electronic medical record, electronic health record. So when it evolved over the past 20 years or more than that now, um, legacy systems were added, but they were actually not built with her. I mean, at the time when it all started, nobody has this foresight that Amazon, Google will come up along with cloud native application and development. So the ability to see this transformation through, I don't think it's a complete leap and shift kind of thing. Definitely not. The organization would have to change to adopt a more agile structure. And that's definitely inertia, uh, because when you look at cloud native kind of technologies, the usual training, the staff who have years of experience in IT infrastructure, in enterprise kind of development, uh, they may need to be retrained. And those are also not trivial kind of retraining, because what is optimized for our on-premise kind of warehouse may not be optimal. And it certainly is not just bring the entire thing over. For that to happen, the talent has to be there, the necessary knowledge has to be there. And obviously, I mean, talking about data governance and privacy protection, the policies would have to be there to establish the trust for us to even be able to make effective tentative move. Um, and I think early successes will be definitely very important. Yeah, so all in all, I think it's a journey, and good to see that we are indeed having that mindset. Eventually, I don't think it will be a full either on-premise or a cloud, a public cloud kind of thing. It also depends on the problem, the use case. And we are already on the cloud for a couple of such use cases where we have to have very direct communications with patients in terms of scheduling of appointments, direct communication of health-related insights and information for some targeted group of patients. So this communications requires us to be on the cloud. But how to actually orchestrate such that the sensitive part of the care, the information related to this care, is still well protected within a trustworthy environment. And I would say that within a trustworthy environment doesn't mean it has to be on premise. Something that is that we have the risk appetite to manage. That's what I would say. And any failure cannot be tolerated in the healthcare, I would say. Any breach or yeah, so these are very sensitive things, which I think that's the reason why we are taking tentative and measured steps. Yeah.
I think thanks, Sean, for that. So I think the obvious thing which I wanted to bring is that we have seen a lot of cloud innovation and a lot of programs rolling out in cloud. One of the questions which I always debate and discuss is that what should be the key metrics to identify the success of the cloud rollout, right? And what kind of key criterias where we can say proudly, hey, we have rolled out the cloud or we have improved on our cloud journey. And yeah, we are successful. So maybe Aziz, I would start with you. What should be the key metrics, and very briefly, because I want to get the perspective of all the panelists. What do you think are the key metrics to measure the success of cloud implementation?
I think when you talk about cloud, right, Sachin, I think it's merely talking about the resiliency and security. So the expectation from cloud architecture that support whether your industry is healthcare or even bank is really in terms of the redundancy, security, privacy, and like I said earlier, high available uptime. So with this kind of metrics, I think that is the basic indicator. And at the end of the day, we cannot rigid ourselves too much in this particular space, because at the end of the day, we need to encourage the innovation, like what I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the driving of fintech development of their MVPs, as an example. Because at the moment, I think the panelists mentioned, I think hit on the nail. Basically, there's a lot of cloud native products that works perfectly if you're already on the cloud. So to leverage on these kind of products, we need to be on cloud ourselves. And I think to summarize in terms of the security side of things, right? I would like to take everyone into this cloud perspective, where I think an analogy will be very useful for this view. So you can position your house as an on-premise setup and the hotel as cloud. So a simple question to tickle your brain is really, which one is more secure? So if you boil down to the type of investment of the controls that you put in to your house, right? Starting from the gate, fence, door, locks, and nuts and bolt. If you only install a standard padlock at your on-prem house, then I think good luck to you. Sachin.
No, yeah, I think very well said. So, Sefi, over to you. What are the key success criteria or the metrics to measure the success of cloud implementation?
Okay, from my opinion, the foremost important thing is the ROI, return on investment. But the ROI is something that the business have to dictate upfront. It's not the technology decides the business, but the business have to dictate the technology. Because whatever the ROI that the business wanted, that one is must be realistic, and the technology is as enabler. Then the strategy must come first. So the first of all is ROI by the implementation of cloud. Does it you have achieved your ROI? The speed to market, your product can faster be implemented. New products is easier to access your customers. This is all have to be taken care of. The second thing is you can compare the cost, because by having moving to the cloud itself, then we have a lot of cost avoidance, like the maintenance of the hardware and software, the hiring of people. So in fact, it's not that by moving to cloud you will downsize your manpower. Your manpower on the other fact, in fact is you can reallocate to do something else, something more productive, something more effective, like helping in projects, so that whatever the projects that you're working on, then it can be delivered faster with more team members on board. Then the third one will be in terms of business continuity. For the business continuity is that, if you can see from the lesson learned from the pandemic, is that most of the company is not prepared for this business continuity. So when the pandemic hits, then they are struggling to continue business. So if they are already on cloud, then it's so easy for them to have their workforce working from home. That operation will go day-to-day operation, go business as usual without any problem. But in fact, from the experience, I can see that many of my colleagues, when the pandemic hits, only they are struggling to buy laptops. Now they are queuing to buy laptops for their staff, to enable them. This all of this must be strategized and be prepared upfront. That in terms of your data, losing your data is a nightmare for any IT people or for the company itself, because data is very important to the company. So by having it on cloud, even we have cloud to cloud backup, whereby the data is now more available, accessible. So in terms of meantime to repair, meantime to repair, then all this data will be online without any downtime, any potential loss of data. This is very important. This is how we gauge whether our implementation is successful or not. Then last and but not least is the customer experience. So by having this cloud adoption, is it the application that we deliver is we can deliver faster? How about the overall experience in terms of availability, the accessibility, the reliability? You imagine how annoyed customer if you have a system built on site, on premise, but always down all the time. In a month, maybe 2 or 3 times down. So this is very annoying. So by having something that is reliable, accessible from anywhere as long as internet connection, it will bring up the company's image and improve the customer's experience.
Sure, Sean. You have literally 1 minute to conclude about this, because I need to cover up one or two more things before we conclude this session.
Sure, I guess the word is ROI, right? Whether it is cost effectiveness, cost savings, customer satisfaction, even time to market, time to deployment, and all these are important parts of consideration. Yeah, that's my conclusion.
Oh no, that's I think that's very well said, because I think everything is going around ROI. So I think let's have one final question as well, and then Sean, I'll put you on the spot here as well for this question, right? So what kind of collaboration and support you need from the organizations to work between CIOs and CEOs, right? Because CEOs have a clear agenda of reducing the cost, and the CIOs is always trying to have more budgets, and the senior leaders in technology that give me more budget for innovation, trying to do things. And so what kind of collaboration you should do in very briefly, or what do you think?
That is exactly the same problem that I think all organizations are facing. I think it's a journey. I think both sides got to rest. I mean, got to understand the difficulties and the challenges, especially in such a, I would say the economy is not doing well. Everywhere you are seeing companies downsizing, budgets being cut. So from a information, the CIO perspective, I would say that some of this may have to, I mean, I do agree from the other angle where you're looking at budgets, costs, and all those, which are definitely important, and how to moderate that pace of transformation. And there are many ways to skin a cat. I mean, if indeed a particular budget cannot be approved, what are the various kind of steps that we could take to ensure that we are future ready? And I think cloud offers a tremendous scalable platform, whereby it doesn't have to be a very, I mean, looking at SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, and so forth, right? It's not an upfront, it's not a tremendous comparative to a tremendous upfront investment in enterprise technologies. It's something that can be taken from a demand-centric perspective, where the service is needed, pay per use for that service, and from that extent, I think it will be easier to balance the budget, to manage it, rather than have a heavy investment upfront. And I think cloud is kind of a solution that helps in that way. Yeah.
Fair enough. I think very well said. So I think we have come to the conclusion of our session. So I usually do a rapid fire round for our audience, right? So the trick question here is that in one word, you have to say something about cloud transformation. Just one word. Sean, over to you.
what is a good word? Transformation.
Okay,
Transformation. No?
fantastic. Saifu,
Value.
fantastic. Aziz,
It's a journey.
fantastic. For me, the one word is experimentation. So keep on experimenting till the time you succeed. And cloud is the future. So, Bhavna, I think we have concluded our session. And I think I respected the time. I wanted to talk a lot and I wanted to hear a lot from the panelists, but respectful of your time. And I know you are managing a lot of things. And as usual, you do a fantastic job. So, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sachin. What an incredible panel discussion. Firstly, I got to say, all the points put by the luminaries in our panel have been impeccable with a lot of knowledge. So once again, a big thank you to our entire panel for joining us. And thank you so much, Sachin, for being an excellent moderator once again. Sean, it's amazing to have you back. Saiful, so is it. So good to see you again. And Aziz, thank you so much again to see you. It's great. And what a great insight. Thank you once again.
Thank you, guys.